I'm calling in to be with all of you for the Essence session on the first day of this summit for Asia Pacific. It's midnight here in Canada, so we're a bit opposite in time. And if it wasn't not dark, I would show you out my window because we just about 3 hours ago got the first real snow of the winter here in Canada. So there's now like this much snow on the ground. Somebody built a snowman outside of my apartment. So I would show you, but you can't see anything right now. So we're officially in winter. I'm betting a lot of you are warmer, some of you cold places as well, but it's definitely winter where I am. So happy to be with you. I'm, wishing that we were together in the same place, but it's really cool to see all of you and your names and your entity names here in the chat. So before we get started, hope you saw our cool intro slide. But of course, I want to just take a moment to introduce myself. So hello. If we've never had the chance to be at the same conference together or we've never been in a virtual session together before, my name is Alex. I'm the president of AIESEC International for the 1920 term. I have less than 30 days left in AIESEC. I think it's like 22 days right now until I officially become an alumni of AIESEC. So this is one of my last sessions, not quite the last one, but it's getting there. So I'm very excited to be here because, one day I'm going to miss all of these spaces. So it's great to be with you when I'm still an active AIESECer. So we're about 170 AIESECers together in this call, and we're going to be talking about the essence of the organization before you kick off all of your summits, your different tracks, your different sessions. We're going to start on the same page because that's really important as one global association to always start big moments in our AIESEC journeys on the same page with our essence. But before we get started with the session itself, I actually just wanted to do a bit of hello and sensing who's in the room. So I know I can see your names or I can see your role and what entity you're coming from on your name in Zoom, which is awesome. I really appreciate that. So I was hoping what you could add to that is you could tell me, when did you join AIESEC? So maybe the month and the year, or just the year, whatever, but tell me in the chat box, when did you join AIESEC? Okay, so I see some 2016s, some 2014s, some 2019s, awesome, welcome. So 2019s, okay, 2018, 2017, okay, 2019. I saw 2020, okay, welcome to AIESEC. 1948, haha, okay, 1920, 2017, 14, okay, 2013, I see you, Prayag. Okay, I joined back in 2012, so I don't know if anybody joined that long ago. I think so far Prayag's the closest, but good, okay, so don't know how many years that'd be if you add all this up. It's gotta be, I don't know, close to 1,000 years of AIESEC experience if you add everybody up here in this call. So that's a pretty cool place to start. And before we kick off this Essence session together, we're actually gonna start with a bit of a story. So I'm gonna play a video for you. It's got some subtitles too, so you can kind of keep up with it.
This cosmic calendar compresses all of the last 13.8 billion years since the Big Bang into a single calendar Earth year. Every month is a little more than 1 billion years. Every day, a little less than 40 million. A single hour is almost 2 million years. That first day of the cosmic year began with the Big Bang, almost 14 billion years ago. Nothing really happened in our neck of the universe until about 3 billion years later, March 15th, when our Milky Way galaxy began to form. 6 billion years after that, our star, the Sun, was born. It was August 31st on the cosmic calendar. Jupiter and the other planets, including our own, would soon follow. The atmosphere on Earth was a toxic environment for our kind of life. Then, September 21st on the cosmic calendar, tiny creatures that could shrug off the methane and eat carbon dioxide and sunlight for breakfast found a way to make a living in the ocean. By gobbling up the carbon dioxide and giving off oxygen, they turned the sky blue. And then, the oxygenation of the atmosphere created the ozone layer. For the first time, life was free to leave the oceans for the land. Now, life could grow larger and venture forth into new territories. Sometime on December 26th, about 200 million years ago, the first mammals evolved, they brought a new feature to life on Earth, the neocortex. And then, late on New Year's Eve, a mutation occurred in the DNA of just one of our ancestors. One base pair of a single gene programmed the neocortex to grow larger still. Maybe it was a random zap from a cosmic ray, or a simple error in transmission from one cell to another. Whatever it was, it led to a change in our species that would ultimately affect every other species of life on Earth. By the last second of the cosmic year, there was no place on Earth that we had left untouched. All of it comes down to nothing more than a single rung on our tiny DNA.
So, why would I start the Essence session with this video? A video about the history of humanity and life on Earth. If you didn't catch it from the video, they were basically walking you through the history of life on planet Earth, which has been millions and billions of years, and trying to show what it would look like if it was just a one-year calendar. So if it started on January 1st and it ended on the 31st of December, what would happen? So January all the way through until December, you have the world evolving, life leaving the oceans, coming onto Earth, the ozone forming, all of these things. And only on the last day of the year do you really have human life in the picture, traveling around the world. And only in the last second of the year do you actually have the human race across the whole globe as we know it now. Now it's super normal for us to know that people are everywhere on Earth. There's almost nowhere, even the bottom of the ocean, that human life has had the chance to explore. And that seems like the norm. It's just normal that humanity is everywhere, but really it's the last second of the 1 year of our Earth. So when you think about the history of our Earth, humanity is young. Our story as a human race has really just begun. And it's really so far from the largest chapter of the story of the Earth, which is really impressive when you think about it and when you put it in the bigger picture. And yeah, some people were asking where the video's from. There's a series that if this kind of sparks your interest or makes you think about things in a different way, you can go and check it out. But if humanity is really young, and if this is just the beginning of our story, what does that mean about the way that we feel and we think about the world and we think about the past and the future? And what it kind of makes me think about is when our feelings kind of feel really overwhelming. So it sometimes feels like we kind of gave up on Earth or on progress, you know, when you're feeling like so many things are going wrong in the world, there's so many challenges, there's so much conflict, there's so many things that feel like they're not perfect yet. And sometimes it's really easy when we're facing, something outside of us, like a pandemic, or we're facing a lot of uncertainty, to feel like that's it, things are not going to get better, it's a mess, it's unfixable, it's too complex, it's too complicated, it's too much, and it's not going to get better, it's been too messed up. But when you think about a full calendar year, us only getting to where we are now in the last second of the year, there's so much more that could be ahead. But as humans, we really see what we can touch or what we can imagine or what someone can tell us about. And so it's so much easier to just imagine the past couple years ahead, behind. It's so much easier to forget what anything felt like before 2020, because now in November of 2020, this feels like the only thing we know anymore. So it's really easy to get in this small scope of thinking and forget about the bigger picture. And so we want to talk about the bigger picture in this space, because this is Essence. This is about zooming out to what the organization really is. So it's not just about a day behind, a day ahead, because as AIESECers, who we are and what we believe calls us to be better than that. If we're getting really overwhelmed that the world is a messed up place or a complex place or a confusing place, or that AIESEC is facing so much uncertainty right now because of that, it could be easy to say, I want to give up, or I want to just stop. But we show up, hundreds of us in a call like this at different times around the world, because we know who we are as AIESECers, and we chose to believe in something by being here as AIESECers. And AIESEC, it's pretty clear who we are. It's not really something that we redefine that often. The values have been with us for decades. We know that as a global organization, we are trying to demonstrate integrity. We're trying to act sustainably, strive for excellence. We're trying to, activate leadership, enjoy participation, live diversity. We're trying to do all of these things as AIESECers. And it's who we are. Like, this is who we are as an organization. It's not something that's been changing over time. And it's something that's supposed to give us a reason to act. Because no matter what the most frustrating thing in the outside world is for you right now, you chose to show up and be here in AIESEC, no matter whether it's something happening in your city or in your country or territory, or just in the greater world right now facing a pandemic. Whatever it is that's happening that's making you wonder when things are going to get better or if things are going to get better, you're still choosing to show up in an organization that says to be part of this organization, you live and make decisions in your life based on certain values. And so you're choosing to be that kind of person that's seeing a bigger picture and a bigger reason. And when we're not doing that, when we're not living those values, we all usually know it. So this year's been really different for all of us as AIESECers. Nothing's really happened the way that we thought it would. Those of you that took on leadership roles, in June, July, or August, that the year didn't go how you thought it would. Those of you that are here as elects that are going to take on new leadership roles in February or January, that maybe it's not how you thought it would be when you joined AIESEC. And also when we make decisions that are not aligned to AIESEC's values, we usually know. So whenever you have made a decision to do something that wasn't the most sustainable because it was for short-term results, or whenever you made a decision to, put somebody else first because they were easier to work with, or maybe you just liked them better and not because they had earned a certain, role or responsibility, probably there was something inside of you that knew that wasn't quite aligned to AIESEC's values. Maybe when, you made the easy decision because you were pressured by time or by the external context, you probably knew that that wasn't aligned to AIESEC's values. AIESECers are a really smart bunch of people. And when we make decisions that are not fully aligned to what AIESEC is, we know. And there's been times that we've done things because things were uncertain, things were unclear, there was pressure, there was confusion. And we know that maybe those weren't the decisions that were the most aligned to what AIESEC is. And so we're going to talk about that today. How do we stay true to what AIESEC is, even when things are uncertain outside of us? So 72 years ago, almost 73 years ago, this organization started. A group of young people came together in Europe. We know this story. And they founded this organization and believed that cross-cultural understanding was essential to prevent similar conflicts. And something that when this year started, this 2020 year, and the pandemic started and things became very uncertain, we started thinking like, wow, AIESEC's never faced anything like this before. Like, AIESEC's never faced a challenge like COVID-19. We've never faced a challenge like having to stop exchange around the world. Like, we've never experienced something like this. And I remember after a couple weeks or a couple months into the pandemic, I read some news article that was quoting the Secretary General of the United Nations. And he actually said, maybe you saw it in the news, that the human race, humanity, is actually today facing the greatest challenge we faced since the Second World War, which was also the event that founded the United Nations. And I thought, absolutely, exactly, he gets it. It's the same for us in AIESEC, that the human race is facing the greatest challenge that we faced since the Second World War, and so is AIESEC. And how it makes perfect sense that this was the event that founded the organization. So how powerful is that a global challenge created AIESEC, and now a global challenge is making AIESEC, really have to reconsider everything. So we have faced a challenge like this before, but it was something that sparked AIESEC. Now it's talking about how do we make sure AIESEC continues through this challenge. But facing challenge, facing conflict, facing uncertainty, and building bridges, overcoming barriers, it's something we've done always, even smaller conflicts or different challenges. And so because of that, peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential became at the core of everything we do. And that's always been true for AIESEC. If you've ever looked into the history of AIESEC, we've had a different logo over the years. We've had different descriptors of our mission statement, but we've always been an organization that at the core was trying to achieve peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. Peace being the absence of conflict, or fulfillment of humankind's potential being the opportunity to be better and be more, maybe be who we were meant to be. If we're in the last day of the calendar year of the history of Earth, and that's the day that the human race began, then we have many years and days and millennium ahead of us. And we want the human race or humankind or humans as people to be able to be whatever they're going to be. And we want to strive for that as an organization. So I want you to keep that in mind, this peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential, especially what it means to you as an individual. And we're going to do a bit of an activity with these parts of our essence. So a couple of disclaimers before we go into the activity. First one is the space is going to be whatever you make of it. You're just starting the summit. You're committing to be online for several days, listening to information and sharing. And this is the first of many examples. I know that you had a chance to share in your tribes in the opening. So you had a chance to start that sharing and that connecting. This is going to be another one of those spaces. And however much you choose to share is going to define how powerful the space can be for you. So I want to invite you to share in this space, and I hope you will, because I really want to hear from you and as leaders of AIESEC and Asia Pacific. So we're going to have some breakout spaces. We're going to actually just have different groups. This time it's a chance to kind of talk to people across different roles or across different entities. So we're going to have more random groups for this space together, and you're going to have some questions to discuss. And when you're discussing, I want you to try the best you can to give everyone a chance to share. So try to ask each other questions, ask follow-up questions to try to get people to really share something authentic. I'm going to show you some questions that you'll use in your conversation. I want you to take a picture of them before the breakouts start because you lose the screen when you go into the breakout rooms. So just take a picture on your phone or take a screenshot on your laptop, or just like jot down a couple words on your notebook just so you don't forget the questions. They're pretty broad questions, so you can go wherever you want with the conversation. But for this first group of questions I want to ask you, I want you to keep in mind that first thing I just said about the essence, the peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. And I want you to think about that greatest challenge that the human race is facing that I told you, COVID-19, the biggest challenge since World War II. What was different back then? We faced a giant challenge as an organization, and it sparked a movement. What's different about this giant challenge that we're facing? What's different or similar? What do you think peace means now in that mission statement? Peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. In 2020, what does that mean? And why do you believe in moving closer to peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential? We're not going to achieve our mission tomorrow, but we strive to get closer every day. So why do you believe in that as an individual? So those are your three first questions. I want you to have a conversation. And I'll go ahead and start those rooms. You're going to have a good amount of time, so make sure everyone gets a chance to share, but I'll send you a heads up when you're running out of time. So let's get you in your rooms. Go ahead and start thinking there. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We'll give people a second to come back from all their breakout rooms. Okay, I think that's everyone back. So welcome back. That was the first of a few conversations we're going to have. You're going to hopefully get to talk to the same people again. I know I moved some of you around if your room got too small. So I hope you were able to get settled somewhere and speak to a few different people and introduce yourselves. But I was asking you about the original foundation of the organization and the original why of AIESEC, Peace and Fulfillment of Humankind's Potential, and what does it mean today? So I'd love to hear from a few of you because collectively, all of our thoughts and opinions and stories as AIESEC and Asia Pacific makes up the region, and then the region together with the others makes up AIESEC as a global association. So I'd love to hear from maybe 2-3 rooms. This is your chance to speak to your whole region. So I see some people are nominating each other in the chat, but if you would just like to say, I'd like to speak, or if you'd like to just unmute yourself and say hello, we can let you start sharing. So yeah, LCPE, you can I? Unmute yourself and
Hello
share.
everyone, my name is Vatsala and I'm the LCP for AIESEC in Lumini, Nepal. So talking about like our group, we had actually 2 MC people and 1 LCPE along with me. So like the major thing that we found in the whole discussion that we had in the breakout space, it was like people had actually the similar thinking but like different perspective of their own. So like the first question itself, like how was it different back then? It was more of like people before it was more of like war and like peace just mean to not having violence or war among the countries, but now it's like more of knowing culture, knowing people. So yes, like it was really good talking with each and every 3 people and sharing different perspectives. So yes, that was it from my side. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you for sharing. So you mentioned people and connecting. Min, I see in the chat wanted to share. So Min, can you share?
Yeah, hello. Okay, so I'm Min from Vietnam and from OGV Vietnam. Yeah, so I want to share for especially the third one as what do you believe in this future? Because at the beginning when I joined the IC, yeah, at that time I want to cry a lot because I feel a little bit lost. Because whenever I think about AIESEC, I think about exchange so that we can exchange like the practical cultural experience. But right now, when we cannot do exchange anymore, I just feel like it's not AIESEC as I used to know. And I feel very demotivated. Yeah, so at this time, I'm going around finding the solution. And my MCB recommend me to see the video that I sent to the chat before as the PAI launch the AIESEC 2020 in IC, yeah, 2015. Yeah, and at that time I saw she said that even we can achieve this milestone even online or offline, and I feel like okay, so we just like change the how we do, so we can move like all the things that we doing right now to the digitalization, so we don't need to really demotivated about that. Yeah, just believe in ourselves and our organization and our people. Yeah, so that's it from me.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think it's super normal for this to be a time when we get really overwhelmed or unclear about what it means for the organization next. But I think it's also really important that these summits are the first round of regional summits, that we're doing to kick off a new year, 2021. And what is that going to mean? How can we be purposeful in the way that we're shaping the next year and not just reactive? So I think that's really, thank you for being willing to share that. I also saw, is it Sanyukta wanted to share as well? You said, I want to share.
Yeah. So hi guys, I'm Sanita. I'm LCPE from AIESEC in India. So I want to share for the second question, that is what does peace means now? So I believe like also we had a discussion about it. For some people, the peace was getting human rights for each and every individual, and there was also a suggestion that peace means safety for each and every individual. But for me, the piece is different for every individual that is here in the conference. Each one of us finds peace in different things, and we are all coming together to find our peace. So, yeah, this is what I wanted to share.
Awesome, thank you. I think it's always really nice to hear about what peace means to different people and in different years. Okay, one more sharing. Travis, would you be willing to share with us what you're thinking and how your group was talking?
Yeah, so I think I also want to add on the second question. Yeah, so recently I was watching a program on Netflix, so it's called Social Media Dilemma. I think that was pretty impressive because I think now actually social media is playing a very important role in peace maintenance, as in regarding on both destroying and also maintaining. Yeah, so I think with the increasing of the social media momentum, actually they create a lot and control a lot what kind of facts and also truth that we are seeing, and the polarization between people are so much different right now. Like in the past, people would want to communicate and sharing each other perspective and point of view. But then now people would just only rely on the fact that they see in their social media because that is so convenient that they can get it, and the polarization is increasing so much. So I think I raise a little bit concern on how that would keep our youth, their behavior and also mindset changing in the future time. Yeah, and I think second of all, I am coming from Hong Kong, although I'm MCP from Malaysia. I think this year was super tough for Hong Kong as well, as 2020. Yeah, because of the protest that is happening. Yeah, so I think I was also very active in the movement before, regarding the things that we do, and I was, so emotional about the police over violence, right? And I use it a lot on spreading with my social media as well. So at that time, my MCP, back then he is still my MCP in Hong Kong, Justin. So he talked to me then, when you do this, right, do you think you are spreading more hatred or you are maintaining the peace that you always advocate or you mentioned? Yeah, so my mind was completely blank because I haven't realized that and noticed this part. Yeah, I feel like I get slapped a lot. Yeah, so I think after I have a talk with Justin, then I realized that peace is never about getting one side of opinion being, but then it's about get a different side of opinion, but then we mutually agree and respecting each other. Yeah. But of course, that would be a very long journey for Hong Kong to go with. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing, Travis. I really liked what you mentioned too at the beginning about social media and how much it's changed things for us, because that beginning video was about how, like, since the history of the earth, human beings have been such a small time. Also, in the history of humans, technology and the internet has been such a small time, but it's changed so rapidly how we interact as people and how we are as societies. So I think it's a very common kind of connection there. So I know some other people wanted to share. You'll have more opportunity. It's not over yet, but I want to keep the conversation going and evolving. So I want you to take it another step further. And that next step, if we started with why, next it's going to kind of go into how as an organization. So we know this, and it was even mentioned in the sharings that, we knew what AIESEC did for a long time and things changed because of the external context, but how we have done what we do as AIESEC has been the same also for 72 years. We've been believing in leadership as the fundamental solution to all of the world's problems since the beginning. We've been believing that certain characteristics and traits of leaders can make the kind of people that can find the solutions the world needs, no matter the problems. If it's the problems of 1948, the problems of 1970, the problems of 2003, the problems of 2020, we believe that it takes leaders to solve those problems. And we believe that it can be developed in anyone, which is one of my favorite things about the essence of AIESEC, is that no one is left out. Even though, not everyone is a member of AIESEC, anyone that were to come here, we believe that they could get better by the things that we offer and help them develop. And then we place our confidence in young people and youth as the key to unlocking that better future. Also, something that's unique to us as an organization is that everyone can grow and develop at any point in their life. They always can be better. They always can strive for peace. They always can fulfill their own potential. But we really are investing our efforts as an organization in young people because we know how much of their lives they have ahead of them to make a difference in the world. So we know that by investing in people at this point in their lives, they have a whole future and they can be that key to a better future for themselves, for their societies, for their world. And so that's how we do the things that we do. And so I want you to have a conversation about this as well, because leadership can look different based on a lot of our life experiences, where we come from, what kind of leaders we grew up learning about. So I want us to have, a conversation about that. So you're going to have a few new questions. I want you, again, write the keywords down or take a picture really quick. I don't want you to lose the questions, so make sure you capture them. But you're going to just have the conversation one level deeper now. You started with why, you're going to how. And I want you to talk about why young people? Why do you believe that this is something that is the focus for our organization? Why leadership development for young people? And why you? Why are you here believing that that's important for you in your life? So why do you believe leadership is the fundamental solution? What are the key problems you're trying to unlock? What kind of leadership do you think the world needs? Is it something about the leadership qualities that AIESEC promises? Is it something very specific? Is it something broad? So what kind of leaders does the world need today in November 2020? And how does that connect with the leaders that AIESEC develops? Are there a lot of similarities? Are there differences? What's that intersection in this new uncertain world that we're in? So why young people? Why you? What kind of leadership does the world need? And how is that similar or different to the kind of leadership that AIESEC develops? So you're going to have one more chance to talk, capture these questions, and let's see if you can take the conversation a little bit farther.
Hey people, I'm from room 30, but I was out, so can you move me back to the room 30?
Yes, I will.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, welcome back, everyone. Everyone needs a couple more seconds to get back from the breakout rooms. Okay, welcome back. Okay, we're almost all here. Okay, so I think almost everyone's back from the breakout rooms. It'll take a second or two to get everyone here, but welcome back. I hope that your conversation went a little bit deeper, and I think that you know the drill. I'd love to hear from a few of you. How did these questions change your conversation? What were the main things you were talking about in your room, or what's the main thing on your mind right now as an individual? So does someone want to nominate themselves, or someone is, Leo, are you keen to share? Is that volunteering?
Yeah, I'm pretty keen to share, hey?
Go for it.
Awesome. So I was promised a soju if I shared, so I'm pretty keen. The part about young people in my group, when we were discussing it, so we were thinking about like what really defines young people versus like the older people, right? And we were talking about how as young people, we reckon like we feel like it seems that we're more open-minded than the older generation, and we have this ability to keep failing. Like it's okay if we fail as young people, so we can really try different things, try new things. And I really like this aspect about what Travis said earlier, which was like, you know, we can look at something, but we can also look at the different sides of the story. When I hear from the older generation, it feels like they're more set on their values, they're more set on how they want to live their lives. But you know, hearing that story from Travis, which was pretty lit, it was pretty amazing story, by the way, where like he saw things from one view, but he was willing to see it from the other view as well at the end of the story. So that was pretty cool. In terms of the leadership the world needs, one of our breakout room people, it was Alvin from Indonesia, MCVP. He talked about how he reckons that everybody has a different leadership style. So therefore, like the leadership required or the leadership the world needs is different depending on who each person are. But he also believed that, you know, the framework that we have as AIESEC, the 4 leadership qualities, is pretty comprehensive way of looking at it. And we always start with a bit of self-awareness as a good foundation. I don't know if we got to the third question, hey, but Lillian from Hong Kong, she talked a bit about like humble leaders in terms of what AIESEC develops. But yeah, that's me.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you, Leo. Yeah, I like what you said about young people and being open to different perspectives and change. I think that kind of connects to everything in our essence, is willingness just to hear and learn something new. Okay, so Saral, hope I'm saying names right, but you said you'd like to share with us?
Yes, you pronounced my name perfectly. Yeah, right. So I had a great conversation in my breakout room. I would like to talk about the second point, which is what kind of leaders does the world need right now. We were talking about the point of resilience, in which people who can be resilient and adapt to the constantly changing world right now. And also because what the world we are in right now is extremely uncertain as well. And so that's why it's very important that we have people who remain positive in this uncertainty. So which directly correlates to the AIESEC value of being solution oriented. So that's the observation that we had. And we were also, I also was discussing about this book I read that talk about this concept of being beyond resilient, in which a resilient object would be that if I break this, it becomes the same again. But something which is beyond resilient or which is anti-fragile, it actually becomes better. So the leaders we need right now are people who can actually learn from their mistakes, and the world that we are in right now, they can adapt from this and actually get a lot better. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I think now I'm hearing more than one person mention failure or resilience or getting back from something as really important right now. So hearing some commonalities. Good. Well, there was someone else's name I was going to ask to speak. So from Sri Lanka, so Surindu.
Yeah, hi. So what we talked about was how, I think it was mentioned before as that young people are much more agile in the way that we think, and the way we approach the world, the way we see different perspectives. And while I think the leadership that we need is like, it's already there in AIESEC, like the values that we have, being solution oriented, trying to be a world citizen. And something that, like, personally for me was the personal responsibility or personal leadership, was instead of trying to go solve the issues of the world, start with yourself, and from there, then that the peace that you gain can spread around to the people around you. So yeah, that's what kind of we discussed. Yeah, thank you.
Awesome, thank you. So more about that connecting. Okay, I think we have time for one more. So I saw Lucia from Indonesia.
Okay, hi everyone. I'm Lucia from Indonesia. I would like to share on the last questions. In our groups, we had 3 peoples, and surprisingly, we had a very similar answer. So what kind of leader that AIESEC develop is like someone who is all in one package, because we have the leadership quality and those we develop in our daily basis, as we have the team standards and so on and so on. But one thing that's really interesting is someone in my group mentioned that we develop this kind of authentic leaders, the one who is really vulnerable and they are keen to actively participate in the team activities, and the one who serve for growth, who want to give example first. As in our entity in Indonesia, we have some taglines, like for this year, we have the connect the dots, and then before we had the share for growth. So the ones who lead to inspire, something like that. And that's really great, because I think in the future, we like to have more like action-oriented leaders. So yeah, that's all from my groups.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucia. Okay, awesome. So I see some commonalities in your answers, some things unique to your groups. I really want to hear what you're going to say with these next set of questions. But if we've talked about the why, then the how, of course, we're going to talk about the what. And you know, what we've been doing for a long time in AIESEC is been delivering one particular type of experience, which was exchange, and another that was membership. But really what all of this is it's this statement. It's that we enable young people to develop their leadership through learning from practical experiences in challenging environments. And when I talk to people outside of AIESEC and I explain maybe like the inner outer journey to them, or I explain the types of exchange that we do, or I explain membership, I always love to use this phrase, like it's a practical experience in a challenging environment, because people can understand that you can have a practical experience in a challenging environment outside of AIESEC, of course, but it's something that we really believe we've also learned how to do in AIESEC, is we've learned that we are able to create an environment where somebody can really grow from something real. And that's what I love about AIESEC, is how real the experience is. So we're going to be talking about AIESEC in 2020. So what I want to know from you is, you know what AIESEC does, why, how, what, we've reached the what, but it's been really different this year. So I want to hear in your groups a conversation about how have you grown since AIESEC stopped doing exchange globally in March 2020? So how have you grown since March? Really, like, how do you think you're different? And then your members. So if you are leading a team, or in your commission, or in your network, or just in your entity, how do you think other people have grown since March? So really be honest and direct. What do you think are the ways that you've grown and changed in this year? So capture those questions, take a picture, write a couple words down. I'm going to put you back into your rooms again, but how have you grown since March? So March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. It's a long time. So have a conversation with your group. And I'm going to be very curious to hear what you have to say.
Enough education, and then they get enough knowledge on the thing. For me, is what it
Hi, I was Al again. So can you move me to room 30?
Yep, all good. Okay, welcome back. We'll give everyone a few seconds. Okay, welcome back, welcome back. I think basically we've got everyone here. So thanks for sharing again. I hope your conversation's getting better every time and you're getting to know each other a bit more. But this one I really want to hear. Who would like to share maybe what your group was discussing or what's on your mind? So Umair, what do you want to share with us?
So thank you for the opportunity. So I would basically like to talk about both of the questions in general. So basically when the pandemic hit, or when we were forced to, halt exchange in March. So obviously it was a really bad time. Most of us had just gotten into our LCVP roles, and I was an LCVP for an exchange portfolio. So obviously it did hit me hard because obviously I'd been hearing about exchange. I wanted to do better than my predecessor. And, obviously the prospect of not being able to do exchange, the prospect of not growing, that was a real bummer. It really demotivated me. But I think one of the greatest things about AIESEC is being solution oriented. I think it does teach you to, step out of your comfort zone and, go beyond what is expected of you. And I feel like that very notion or that very expectation pushed me on to do better, because that brings me to my second question, because I thought I've already had a lot of experience in this organization prior to becoming an LCVP. As a member in leadership, I have to ensure that my members constantly grow. And I think that is something that motivated me. I wanted to ensure that my members in general grow, because I knew that prior to the pandemic, I had a lot of growth opportunities, but I know they won't have those same opportunities. So I think that is something that pushed me on, and my members continue to surprise me. They took so many initiatives, and that for me as a leader was very heartening to see that the sort of vision that I had, it was being, it was being translated through their efforts. So yeah, thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing. It's good to think about how members are experiencing AIESEC right now and how that affects even us as leaders of members. So I think I also saw Tu from Vietnam.
Yeah, hi. So I think my gen is just like humor, and also in my group they also say about growth mindset, innovative, and being solution oriented during this time. And I always say with my teammates and even my members, like we shouldn't see that this pandemic is a problem with us. We will have to see it as a chance that we can create many more ideas and crazy idea that we can do to, like, because previously we are really restricted by the border and by the physical things, but when the COVID come and we can like expand our border more, and we are not like, for me now, if we want to run an event, it's not just we not only have to invite the people in our city, but we can invite the people from another city and even from another country. So it's really like expand the potential for us and expand the opportunity for us. And as long as we have the growth mindset and we have always like want to innovate and create ideas, we can really like utilize this chance as some space to create more creative ideas. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. I like what you said, that closed borders in some ways was open borders in other ways. That's a really good way to see two sides of the same situation. Raghib, you want to share with us?
Yeah, yeah. So I think how I have grown personally is that we started looking into alternate sources for making revenue and also like partnerships. And I think it was a really nice break for us, like looking at not being a one-dimensional organization. So that's something I really enjoyed. And that's something we've been doing. And I really, really, really like that aspect of things. In terms of members, I think, you know how we keep saying that if you go on an exchange, you'll be pushed out of your comfort zone. I think this was the ideal time for them to be pushed out of the comfort zone. And I'm like, now that you talk about it, now you get to experience it properly. And I think that was like brilliant for us. And I also like this amazing thing I saw from my members was so many of them like went through mental breakdowns, but they learned to take care of themselves over the last 7 to 8 months. And I think what I understood from that is, since they've learned to take care of themselves, now they can actually start taking care of others as well. And I think that is what's really brilliant, that if you want leaders to grow and to get better, you have to start taking care of yourself first. And I think that's something that was really prioritized over the last 7 to 8 months. Yeah, I think that's about it.
That's awesome. Thank you. I think that's a good learning for everyone to have had in this time. Awesome. Okay, Mia from the Philippines.
So hi. In March, I don't know. In March I was a TL. By September I became a VP, and by the time of last month I became an LCPE. So like, as you can see, like I really went through a lot of change and growth since March 2020, because so much happened in the Philippines, and especially being IGV, you know, and this was the year where IGV finally came back to our LC. Like we were only just about to start it up again. So it was really a challenge, and it was so disheartening at first, but it really gave us the motivation to tell ourselves that we have to challenge ourselves to build the foundation this year, and to get everyone, get new members who will understand the importance of IGP and exchange, but at the same time know that what our goal is at the end of the day is making an impact in society and helping these people grow and fulfill what they think they can give to the world. And how this helped my members too is, actually all my members were new. As I said, we were all coming from different departments, and it was our first year. So when they came into the picture, despite a lot of the things that is happening in the Philippines other than the pandemic, I think a lot of you have heard also of the effects of the typhoons. It forced us to become innovative and again also solution oriented, and it made us ask ourselves where we should really be focusing all our energy. And I saw how my members went from being newbies, very shy, very doubtful of themselves, to people who really kept wanting to gain more experience and really kept looking for more and more ways to make an impact in more than just what their JDs gave them. And I don't know, it was very inspiring, and I hope that that's something I can see in the next term to come.
That's awesome. Thank you, Mia, for sharing. Yeah, I think that's really nice to talk about being solution oriented and what we can learn from our members, and also how we can still think about people outside of ourselves, our society, our community, when things are changing. So thank you for everyone else that wants to share. I want to make sure that we end on time, so we're going to run short now, but I hope that this desire to share will continue in all your other sessions, because this is not going to be the last space you're going to have to talk with each other. But I do want to leave you with some more questions that I hope you can take with you in the rest of the summits that you're going to be in. And that's this last piece of the essence. It's part of that why, how, what. We talked about the practical experiences in challenging environments, and we already mentioned that, you know, for 72 years, it was exchange and members cross-cultural exchanges, and then by creating these opportunities is all of those members around the world. And so that's what we were doing for such a long time. That was the, biggest chapter of our story as AIESEC, was this history of doing cross-cultural exchange and having members developing themselves as leaders. And even though that was a huge chapter in AIESEC's history, and even though I still hope and I still believe it's part of the future of AIESEC, the present is really changing. And the present of AIESEC is something that we have to be open to new ideas and things that are beyond our job description, like people I've already mentioned, or things that we have to be solution oriented. We have to have a growth mindset. So as you go into the summit, I want you to really think about this in the back of your head. We're not going to go back into the groups. I want to just leave it with you. Is what would AIESEC look like if we enabled leadership experiences in other ways? Maybe that's innovating in our current programs and products. Maybe it's new programs and products. How would the world look if AIESEC was able to fill some sort of gap that the world needs right now when it comes to leadership and development? What is it? What does it look like? Who needs to be involved? How do we start? So when you're going into sessions and learning and sharing and creating ideas, really be willing to, challenge the status quo and ask yourself, what might need to change for AIESEC to be what the world needs right now? So keep those questions with you. But in general, when we're talking about a world facing so much, facing COVID-19, Mia mentioned facing other natural disasters in our countries and territories. I think Raga mentioned mental health crises and self-care, unemployment as an implication of this crisis. So many things are happening around the world. There's probably things happening in your city or your country or territory that not everyone even here really knows about, but there's so many challenges and there's so many solutions that are needed. But as AIESEC, we're here to talk about leadership development as one of those solutions and as really the fundamental one. And what I love that I think so many of you already realize is that every single time that humanity has achieved something in our, short time in the history of the world that we've been the human race, it's come from some kind of leader. And that leadership is what we develop in AIESEC. And people can develop that leadership in other ways outside of AIESEC, but think about like the most famous leader that you learned about in school growing up in your country or territory. That person had characteristics of leadership that we hope to develop in AIESEC as well. There's nothing more human than finding a solution and being a leader, stepping up and saying that you're going to figure it out when no one else is willing or they're scared or they're unable. That's really what it means to be human, is to find those solutions in the short term, in the medium term, in the long term. This is it. This is what it's all about. And in AIESEC, we're trying to, be a playing field or a learning classroom playground for that type of development, no matter how hard or different it is now than it was before. So, it's 2020 and we're heading towards AIESEC 2025. 5 years from now, we're going to be talking in the organization about a whole different AIESEC, because someone mentioned earlier, looking back at AIESEC in 2015, AIESEC in 2020 was so different. And in 5 years from now, for sure, we're going to know different ways to develop leadership. We're going to know how AIESEC adapted to the pandemic, but that's 5 years from now. Today, what we know is that we can focus on our strengths and what makes us relevant. That leadership that the world still needs, the things that are still growing and developing in us since March. We can do what we're good at as AIESECers. So be present as you go into the summit, really be present. I know that we're virtual. I know we're all over the world, but be present and bring those answers and those questions and those solutions and those ideas, because you have the ability to take action as an AIESECer. You're a leader in this organization. That's why you're here online right now. So you have a position where you can take action, but those actions, they need to be aligned to what our calling is as an organization. They need to be aligned to what AIESEC is, and then it can adapt to the external context, but you have to keep us true to AIESEC, but be creative enough to do that in new ways. It's peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. That hasn't changed. And so that. We've talked about it so many times since you came here as a new member. But now, today, the conversation we're having around the essence, we're really trying to connect it to the outside world and to our current context. So don't forget that. Remember, there's a link. There was a challenge and it founded AIESEC, and it founded peace and fulfillment of humankind's potential. And today there's another challenge, and it's going to shape the next chapter of AIESEC. And you're going to be part of that. So thank you for being part of this and for listening to each other. I think the best way to start a summit like this is to know what's on the minds of our peers. And I want to just leave you for the rest of the summit to be the person that's going to shape AIESEC. So having your mind clear, what is the kind of AIESEC you're going to build for 2020, for 2021 and beyond. So thank you for being with me. Thank you to every single one of you that shared. I know that now you have a break, so make sure that you're following the calendar of the conference. You do have a break now, so friends, shake it off, write in your notebook, talk to people in your mind. But for the rest of the summit, we will see you guys. You have a break now. So if any more announcements are needed, I think the CC will share with us, but we've got our break and you've got your calendar. So thank you, people. Thank you all. It was nice to be with you. I'm glad you like the music. Bye, everyone.
So we can just leave the room, right?
Yes, one.
I was expecting some announcement.
Me too.
Yes, you guys can leave the room. Come back in 20 minutes. We're going to start the next session for external context in 30 minutes.
Okay, thank you, Prayo.
Thank you,
Prayo. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, Prayog.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
Bye.
One. Hey.
Yeah.
Casey, change your background at least. It's since I've seen this background, change this
Yeah,
background.
it's very iconic,
Fake
right?
office. Fake office.
You can create yours though.
Send me the picture. Let's put the same background.
Okay, I'll send it in MCP.
Telegram. For the Telegram.
Oh, Telegram. Okay. Cool. See you in 20 minutes, guys. Bye.
Bye.